like this new arrangement. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here this morning at what I think is truly a momentous occasion. The whole Cool Schools idea was a centerpiece of my campaign back when Oregon had double-digit unemployment because providing the opportunity to retrofit our public school buildings for energy efficiency is a very smart way to put people back to work, to save money, and also to improve our schools. Since I came into office, we've created just over 16,000 jobs here in the state of Oregon, and unemployment rates have continued to drop, but the fact is that recovery has been spotty. And many parts of our state, particularly in rural communities, have not benefited from this recovery. And it's very, very important that we make sure that the economic benefits of recovery reach every corner of our state and every county in our state. And now that the Cool Schools legislation is passed, we have a very, very effective way to do that. This initiative provides access to financing for public school districts to upgrade their facilities and make them more energy efficient through the Clean Energy Development Fund in the Oregon Department of Energy. We know that for every $1 million invested in this kind of activity, we can create up to 15 good family wage jobs. And to the extent that we use Oregon products, gelled windows, for example, or other local sourcing, we can create a larger ripple effect. And of course, there's the benefit to retail establishments in these communities as well that new employment brings. So with up to 43 schools already signed up in 13 school districts in 12 counties, from Pine Eagle in eastern Oregon to Klamath Falls in the southern part of our state to Warrenton on the north coast, we have the opportunity to immediately begin creating good jobs throughout the state of Oregon. And the benefits to these school districts are not insignificant. The Dallas School District has recently done upgrades for many of its buildings, including boilers, roofs, windows, heating systems, hot water, as a part of their effort to be more energy efficient. These not only create a better learning environment for students and teachers, better lighting, better airflow, more comfortable, and more healthy school classrooms, but they save significant resources. And as Christy Perry, who's the superintendent of the Dallas School District, will tell you in just a moment, these upgrades are expected to save in the neighborhood of $100,000 for her school district over the next biennium. And those are resources that can be redirected to teachers and to classroom supplies. Innovative approaches like the Cool Schools initiative, like our efforts to transform our system of public education and our healthcare system, are absolutely essential for the long-term economic recovery of our state. They're essential for training the workforce of the 21st century. In short, they're essential for building a sustainable and prosperous future for the state of Oregon. I might also say that this bill passed both chambers unanimously, which is another example of what the amazing bipartisan work that this legislature has been able to take this session to move our state forward. I want to just close by thanking everybody who made this happen. We had literally dozens of legislators involved. I particularly would like to acknowledge Representative Bailey and Representative Smith, who've been championing this for at least a year and a half. Our First Lady, who is hiding somewhere in the back, has been, there she is, been a big advocate of energy efficiency for many, many years. I'd like to thank my transition team co-chairs, Barbara Bird, Maurice Raming, and Margaret Kirkpatrick, as well as this huge coalition of business, private sector, not-for-profits, government agencies, particularly the Department of Energy, under Bob Repine, who've made this happen. So let me ask Christy Perry to say a few words to us this morning.
Thank you, Governor Kitzhaber. I get to be the one to tell the story of what this money will do out in our public schools. So I was especially excited when I got a call from JP asking if I would speak on behalf of the Cool Schools. So Dallas is a medium-sized district just west of Salem. We are, like every other district in the state, struggling financially. And 6 facilities, 3,000 plus kids. And I've often said that I think all the legislatures should spend about a week out in our hot buildings in September, because I think then they would really support things like the Cool Schools bill, but also they'd understand exactly what we are up against in public schools. So in 2007, we started energy upgrades in our district, me being the skeptic, but I went along for the ride a little bit, and we decided to upgrade our lighting in all 3 of our elementary schools. So I went along with it because I thought, these lights are really awful. They convinced me that I'd also see some energy savings as well. After that time, we then began a more aggressive approach because we had passed a bond. And so since that time, we've installed energy efficient boilers in all 5 of our schools that had boilers. We've upgraded the lighting in all of our facilities. We've added full supervisory controls in our 3 elementary schools and our middle school. We've updated windows. We've replaced hot water tanks. And all along, I was the skeptic about the energy savings because I just needed new boilers. We had boilers like every other school district in the state. When every day they ran in the winter, it was a good day. I'd show up to work most days knowing that we had 1 boiler down somewhere. And in the coldest of days, there's times you wonder, are we going to be able to start school today? Our boilers range from 40 years old to 80 years old. And what I told my community, who says you have to maintain your schools, I'm like, what person uses their home furnace for 80 years? I think we did a great job of maintaining our boilers. So anyway, it was one of those things that I needed the upgrades for maintenance. I needed the upgrades so that our boilers were run, and I knew I was on the verge of a catastrophic failure of our boilers. So with McKinstry, our energy contract beside us, they convinced me to go down this road, them selling it as energy savings, me saying I need a new boiler, it's 80 years old. And I will tell you the results were phenomenal for us in all accounts. So here's what I can tell you about the results. If you walked into one of our classrooms pre-controls work and post-controls work, you would find a climate where you could breathe in the classroom. When they're in the middle of this at our middle school this year, we would go in one classroom that had the adequate indoor air coming in, 30 plus middle schoolers, imagine how that smells, but adequate indoor air or outdoor air coming in, and into a classroom that did not have the controls work completed yet. And we would walk in and you'd feel this, whew, and you could feel the carbon dioxide in the air in those classrooms, something we never noticed before until we really began with the adequate controls work and indoor or outdoor air coming into our classrooms. The lighting improvements have made our technical work in our most technical positions much easier on. We have several employees that experience migraine headaches who can now come to work with a migraine when before they couldn't because of the lighting in our facilities. We've also updated with special lighting for our special education classrooms, for our students with the highest sensory disorders. Again, phenomenal difference when you use different types of lighting for those kids. Our district maintenance staff can now monitor our building boilers from a distance. We have a power outage in town. I call my district maintenance, say, have you checked our boilers? He says to me, yes, Christy, they're up and running. Versus calling in, having overtime, having to go out to those buildings to make sure they're running. One click on their computer, they know every boiler in the district is running. They also can project problems with our boilers from a distance. We had one time when we had $10,000 of natural gas go out our chimney because we didn't know we had a problem with our boiler. Now we watch that day in and day out. We don't have to wait for our bills to come to say we've got gas going up the chimney. So another big and huge change is, or big part of this was putting local contractors to work. I brought 2 local contractors with me today, DC Electric. Justin Moore from DC Electric is here in the back, and also Sean from Forbes Plumbing. And when Governor Kitzhaber talked about what it does to the economy, I will say I brought the examples with me today. When I talked to Sean about attending with me, he says, I need to be there because this work saved my company. So I was like, wow, he had 3 employees that were on unemployment before we had these projects. He brought them back to work. His business is up 30%, and he has all of those contractors or those employees still working. The same is true for Justin at DC Electric. We came at a time when his company was struggling with the economy, and he got to put people back to work. He got all his employees to 40 hours a week, and he hired more people. So those are two examples in Little Dallas, Oregon, of what the energy type money has done in our state for the economy. So in addition, I get to talk about the energy savings, which to me was like the icing on the cake. I got to put local contractors back to work. I have boilers that run, and now I get to save money as well. So we have decreased by 21% since our electrical usage since we've started. We have one school, Oakdale, that is all electrical, no boiler, and we did full DDC controls. Before this project started, we would have one room at 90 degrees and one room at 60 degrees. And we would have to just juggle it all day long. In November and December of this year, we used half the amount of electricity in those buildings. We believe that we've saved about we would be spending about $59,000 more in electricity this year had we not done all of these energy upgrades. $59,000 for Dallas School District is a lot of money. That's a big savings. Part of the struggle is Pacific Power and Electricity is really rising, so we can't really decrease our budget in electricity, but we're not paying that $56,000 that we would have paid. So a huge success story. Natural gas, because of our energy efficient boilers, next year in our budget, we have reduced our budget by $93,000. So huge savings in natural gas. To us who has cut one teacher, that means, or 25 teachers, that means one less teacher that we're cutting. So because of our energy projects, we have one more teacher working and on the ground in our school district. So we have been really excited. We're excited about the Cool Schools money. We've got a few more things we'd like to accomplish at our high school and a few more windows projects. But while I'm here, I have to thank a few people. Our Citizens Advisory Committee were a bit like me. Energy savings? What are you talking about, Christy? So I have a couple of people from my Citizens Advisory Committee who advised us on these projects all along, so we need to thank them and our school board. And I don't know if we have anyone from McKinstry here today, but there, okay. She's not usually the one I work with at McKinstry, so.
I'm the certified smart people that actually figured all that out.
Yeah, McKinstry, certifiably smart about the energy savings stuff. So just again, I'm especially excited about this initiative for the school districts in Oregon, and I would encourage superintendents who are skeptical like me to take the risk, because the risk is worth it for local contractors, the risk is worth it for learning for students, and the risk is worth it for the money savings they'll get on the other side of it. So thank you very much for pushing this.
I'm going to give a couple of legislators an opportunity to speak, but that's going to be a hard act to follow. You said it all. I just want to point out the chart up here. Those blue dots are actually the school districts. You can see a geographic distribution. We have probably in the neighborhood of $15 million that we're going to invest this summer. And what I want to be clear about is this is just a down payment on an effort to do large-scale sort of community-level retrofits. We have 2 billion square feet of industrial and public building stock in Oregon and Washington alone. Imagine if we could finance the retrofit of those buildings, what that would do to the building trades and the ripple effect for our economy and the cost savings for schools and other segments of our economy. Let me start with Representative Bailey.
Thank you, Governor. Well, it was a hard act to follow, and I think Christy said all of the reasons why this is such a great bill. However, this is my first signing ceremony, so that's not going to stop me from saying a few more things here today, even though she's already said it all. You know, even in my short time in the legislature, I've come to understand that the process around Cool Schools is really how the public policy process should work. A governor lays out a vision and sets a high bar. Legislators of both parties and both chambers come together to meet that challenge. And then all of you, the people who represent the contractors, who represent the schools, who work daily with the boilers, who keep them up and running, who provide the energy, who provide the fuel for the school buses, who represent the children, help us craft a piece of legislation that at the end of the day ends up becoming a great opportunity and a consensus bill. it really has been a privilege to be a part of this process. And I think it says something that we pass this bill at a time when we have an evenly divided House and a very closely divided Senate. And it's evidence that when you reach out and you work across the aisle, you get a better product. And at the end of the day, we have a bill here that is not a mandate, it's not new spending, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to provide a tool to make the programs that we have work better. And it's a foundation for where we need to go in transforming the way that we use and we manage energy. Cool Schools is really a first step. We're going to transform schools across this state. And with these kinds of mechanisms, we can see an energy future that creates good jobs across this state, that reduces our energy use, that helps us have a more efficient economy, a more productive economy. And Cool Schools puts the pieces in place to ensure that every kid can learn in an environment that actually is a fun place and a nice place to be. And that really is the story here. As much as this is a win for jobs, as much as this is a win for energy, this is really a win for the kids. I had the opportunity to visit Sandy High School recently, and I was visiting with a teacher there who's a friend of mine, talking to some of his students. And they were downright excited about the opportunity of being in one of these schools, to not have to sit with a broken ceiling tile hanging over their head while they're trying to learn, of not having to be in those sweltering classrooms. Healthy, high-performance schools do mean healthy, high-performance kids, and that's what this bill is about. It's been a privilege to be part of it. Thank you.
Mrs. Freeman, would you like to say a few words?
I'm okay.
Okay. Jackie? All right. Then batting cleanup, Jefferson Smith. Want to bring some chairs to...
My staff brought pillows. The couple people actually really didn't want to follow our good superintendent. When we all gathered, Representative Boone was standing next to me, and she said, "Why are we all here?" And I wasn't sure, but I now know, and I appreciate it. The fundamental challenge of this century is to build a high-road economy, one that is prosperous, sustainable, and just. That's the big question. Most of the other questions we face are either subsets of that or largely distractions. The Cool Schools bill is a hallmark of win-win-win economic policy. Thank yous are probably the most important thing we can do, and we won't get to all of them, but I want to get to a few more. From 2 years ago, starting with efficient public buildings legislation with Brian Krieg, to conversations with Nancy Hamilton, she said, well, what if you guys focus a little more on schools? To interim conversations with people like Andrea Salinas and Jules, talking about, well, what might it actually look like? To people who have been working on this for years. To Deborah and Alex and other staffers who have been working tremendously hard. To legislators like Tim and Jackie in both chambers and in both political parties represented here, who have been also working very, very hard. And now a unanimous vote, just like all the other education policy this session. That ultimately this has been a lesson not in trying to find the left or the center or any place on a political spectrum, but on finding the future. And it has been an honor to be a part of that effort to find the future and to work on Oregon being an example to the nation of what a state can be like. I want to applaud the governor on his leadership, on his vision. I want to applaud people like J.P. Botmal, who have worked on, and Joe in the back, and so many others who have worked on this, people in the administration. And then finally, to remind us, as Representative Bailey said, that this is not an end, it has to be a beginning. It has to be the launch of an effort to retrofit public buildings and school buildings across our state, and you didn't need chairs after all. Thanks very much.
Well, we're going to try to do this with 8 pens, apparently.
Change sponsors. Chris. Oh, other side? Okay. I'm moving to your left.
How's that possible?
I know. And you have to get a pen here. I'm really good at this. I did this for Bonneville.
Congratulations.
Yeah.